Right, so here is part two of my short camping holiday in Wales, in Barmouth. So I just finished talking about the town and how nice this pasty shop was. In fact, I wish I knew the name of it. I've no idea what it was called. It was a very small place and it was very, very close to a train station. And the train ran, like the line for the train, the track, ran right next door to this shop. So it must have been very loud when a train was going past. It was a very small shop, and they also had cakes as well. And I wanted to try a cake, but unfortunately I didn't. Anyway, we did a few things. I think, we did a few things with the kids. So we went around all the shops, and we took the kids to a sweet shop, and they chose their own sweets. Like pick and mix. So you can pick and mix the type. I don't know, do other countries have pick and mix sweets? They're like these containers, lots of containers, and with different types of sweets in each container. And you can choose 5 sweets from this one, 10 sweets from this one, 6 sweets from this one, all different types. And then at the end they weigh like how heavy the sweets are, and then you pay based upon the weight. So I guess you could have like hundreds of really light sweets, or like just 2 very, very heavy sweets, and you both pay the same amount of money. Anyway, after that, I think we went back. I think we went onto the beach, because before we were just walking past it, but this time we actually walked on it and went down to the ocean for a paddle. Which the kids really enjoyed, and we were chasing them around with seaweed, and I was doing that, of course, because I'm a bit silly, and I was saying seaweed monsters coming, which they really enjoyed. And what else did we do? Not much, really. I think it was quite windy, so some of us were cold, some of us were not wearing enough clothes for summertime in England. So after we'd been there a while, I think we headed back to the campsite next. And I think it was late afternoon by this time, so we would have stayed there, had something to eat. And my nephew, my oldest nephew, he's just recently, I bought him a Nintendo Switch for his birthday, and he's quite into it at the moment. Really enjoys playing games and very enthusiastic about it. So he kept coming into my tent, and he was saying, like, Uncle Chris, let's play Nintendo. Let's play on the Switch. And he just wanted to sit there and play a game, and then I'd watch him play, and he'd get a bit stuck somewhere, and I'd help him out and that kind of thing. So yeah, he must have done that for like an hour or 2 or something. And then it was time for sleep. And this is where all the problems started, when it was time to sleep. Because as I had said, it was windy, when we were down on the beach. Well, this campsite, it was very high up. You entered on this road that looked like it wasn't a road. You could just fit one car up this road. And as soon as you entered the road, it was a steep hill. And it just kept going up and up and up. And there was lots of twists and turns. And if ever, like some oncoming traffic, if ever there was some traffic coming towards you, you had to brake suddenly, because the road was so narrow you couldn't see anything around the corners. So it was a bit of a nightmare to get up this hill, or down this hill even, every time you wanted to go in and out of the campsite. But yeah, it went up and up, and the campsite was on top of a hill, or on top of a mountain, I'm not sure. I never know when a mountain becomes a hill, or a hill becomes a mountain. But anyway, it was in a high place, and because of that, the benefit was it had fantastic views. It's the best views of any campsite I've been on. I would open my tent, like tent door, in the morning, and you would just be faced with just nature and these hills, these mountains, and you could see the clouds or the mist rolling over the mountains in the early morning, which was really, really nice. And if I came out of my tent and looked to the right, I could see the ocean. Really far down it was because we were so high up. So that was great. That aspect of it, that point, was really good. But because it was so high up as well, there wasn't any protection from the wind. And it was windy. It was very windy. It was the most wind I have ever experienced on a campsite. So you're lying in bed, trying to get to sleep, and the wind is blowing the tent so hard that the shape of the tent is just changing so much. It's like somebody's outside and they're pressing on the tent and like squashing it to one side and squashing it to another side. And it's loud. It's very loud, actually. I'm surprised by how loud a tent can be when it's being blown by wind. And maybe I could have slept if it was constantly that sort of same noise, like the noise of the material of the tent like flapping in the wind. But it wasn't. It would go quiet. It would go very, very quiet, very, very still for about 5 seconds. And then all of a sudden this giant whoosh, this massive amount of wind just hit the tent. And when it does, it's like a banging sound, like a slap on the material. So you're just about falling off to sleep, and then you get woken up and in a fright, like you jump because you're woken up so quickly. And so because of that, on the first night, I didn't sleep at all, I don't think. I think I remember sort of falling asleep just as it was getting light outside. I could see like the tent was becoming brighter, and I remember falling asleep a bit then. So that would have been like, I don't know, like 5, maybe 6 in the morning even. Although I woke up it must have been 5 because I did wake up at 6 like usual. Although I think I might have stayed in bed till 7 because I was just so exhausted. That was horrible. I'm really bad with not getting sleep. If I don't sleep like the amount of like 7 hours, 8 hours, then I'm really bad at some point. And like going almost the whole night with no sleep, that's going to cause trouble at some point. Maybe not the next day so much, but like a couple of days down the line, further on, I'll feel that. So the first night was very, very disappointing. But anyway, we carried on with the day, and the next day we went to an arcade or a game center, and the kids played on some games like those UFO catcher games, where the crane games, where there's a big hand metal claw that comes down, tries to catch stuff. Did they win something? I don't know. They won something. I can't remember from which machines, but I had to go there. And then they went for a donkey ride, which is a very traditional British thing to do at the seaside. I think even today it's still popular. You'll see donkeys at the seaside, and they're just there for children to ride on. So you pay someone some money, and then someone walks the donkeys with the children on, and up and down the beach, and that's your donkey ride. There are also trampolines at this beach. So my oldest nephew, he went on the trampoline for, I don't know, a few minutes, just jumping up and down on there like you do. And then we got, I think we had something to eat at this point. I can't remember what. Who knows? But then we went down onto the beach for a second time, and this time we had like a beach tent. So we were going to stay there for a lot longer. We spent, I don't know, a few hours maybe. I wasn't keeping track of time really. I was playing hide and seek, or like a hide and seek sort of game, in these sand dunes. So sand dunes are like big hills with grass sticking out of them usually, and this beach had lots of sand dunes in one point, so you could sort of crawl along the ground and hide behind all of this grass that was sticking up. And it seemed to like it doing that, but it's it's fun, but you're also busy keeping an eye on them, making sure they don't wander off too far, not going out of sight. So you don't really have time to look at the time. So I don't know how long we were there, but that was fun anyway. So we went back for the second night, and we were hoping that the wind wouldn't be so windy. Because the idea of it being windy all night, okay, normally you get like a bit of wind, like an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours of wind, and then it dies down. But at this place, it was windy all night. So I thought, that's not going to happen again. It was windy on the evening. I remember sitting outside the tent. Actually, we weren't sitting outside the tent. I tell a lie. We were sitting inside the tent because it was cold. It was about 15 degrees, but it was so windy that it became cold. So I was sitting inside the tent, enjoying a beer. Anyway, bedtime came and it was still windy. Got into my tent, lied there. I was much, much more tired the second night than I was the first night, after not having any sleep the first night, really. So I think I slept better. But the wind was worse on the second night than it was on the first night. It was unbelievably windy. It was crazy. It was so windy that I actually thought, I was worried that the tents were going to be okay. That's how windy it was. I thought maybe it was going to rip part of the tent, rip part of the material, or maybe break some of the poles that go into the tents to keep it up. So I was imagining like waking up and the tent would just be flat. Or like it would happen in the middle of the night and it would wake me up and then I'd have nowhere to sleep, which would have been horrible. But anyway, the tent survived, thankfully. Although not everyone's tent. There was another family on the campsite and their tent was ripped. I don't know how badly, I couldn't see it, but they said it had the wind had damaged it and ripped the side of it or something. So that's not good. That's how windy it was. It was so windy it could rip tents. I don't know the wind speed. I should have looked on the phone. I should have looked and checked what the wind speed was, but it was really, really blowing. Although it does sound a lot worse inside a tent than if you're just standing outside, I've noticed. But anyway, so I slept better the second night, but not fantastic again. I kept waking up. I kept falling asleep and waking up. A bit better than the first night. But then after coming back we came back on the Sunday. It was my birthday recently. It was my birthday on the Monday. And I just felt ill. And I had work as well, and I just felt horrible. Like the lack of sleep had caught up with me. I felt tired and a bit sick and a bit just all over the place. Really weird feeling. But apart from the tons of wind and the weather was a bit colder than I wanted it to be, it was a very nice holiday. I just wish we'd gone at the point when we had all this good weather in England, and that would have made it so much better. But that's just the way it goes in England. You never know if you're going to get some good weather or not on a holiday, and probably more often than not you're going to get bad weather. Oh well. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode, and I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who has been joining my Patreon page, so that you can get access to the transcripts for these episodes and also access to the private podcast. I've been talking about some interesting news on there recently that I'm not able to share on the public podcast yet, but probably will at some point in the future. Well, I'll have to at some point in the future. But anyway, for the time being, I'm keeping it on the private podcast. Until next time, bye-bye.